Hi, my name is Brittany, and I'll be picking up where Jamie left off in our presentation on single sex education. I will be giving the arguments against single sex learning environments. To start, we will revisit question 1. Do students in single sex environments outperform their co-educational counterparts? Reports show less academic disparity between males and females. Girls who attend all-girls schools tend to perceive single-sex classes to be superior, but many studies show that these perceptions have not led to improved academic performance for girls at single-sex schools. So the girls are perceiving themselves as superior to their male counterparts. However, their academics are not showing that they are superior. There has been little interest for researchers in the United States to study single-sex education compared to co-ed education. Most studies are done outside of the US, and there are many concerns with the validity due to biased selection. For example, one study was picking schools that had brighter students from privileged backgrounds. Based off of the lack of research and concerns with research validity, there is no definite answer as to whether or not there are benefits to single-sex education. There are greater academic gaps between races, ethnic groups, and socioeconomic classes. Poor and minority students are the ones who are underperforming. We should take a step back and realize that the academic gap between boys and girls is not drastic. We need to shift our focus to the fact that poor and minority students are the ones falling behind academically. As educators, we need to wonder if single-sex classes are going to help these poor and minority students, or will they be successful in a co-educational setting where a teacher is attending to individual learning needs instead of the needs of girls or the needs of boys. Caution. A plethora of factors lead to single-sex success. Better performance of students in single-sex classes is due to many factors, including student ability, socioeconomic status, type of school, private or public, school characteristics, including size and structure, selection bias, and effective teaching. When all of these factors are controlled, the academic differences between single-sex and co-ed schools are neither significant nor conclusive. As educators, we can replicate the successful elements of a single-sex school and implement them into a co-educational setting. These elements include a focus on core academics, small class sizes, qualified teachers, parent involvement, and sufficient funding. All of these things will ensure success for all students regardless of a single-sex or coeducational setting. Question 2. Is there a difference in the learning styles of boys versus girls? From listening to the argument in favor of single-sex schools, you know that boys are more kinesthetic learners, while girls rely on visual and auditory cues. You heard that girls tend to do poorer in math and science, and that boys struggle with English. With all of this in mind, why should we want to keep boys and girls separate? As educators, we should want to have them working together so that they can merge their abilities. During activities, teachers can create groupings based off of mixed ability so that boys and girls can countercheck one another and learn from each other. This will allow students to learn from each other through collaboration. One study on a single-sex boys' school showed that a boys' math class was noisy. There was less time spent on task, and the boys complained, saying that they missed having girls around who could help them. It is interesting to hear that the boys wanted the girls to help them with math, yet girls are said to do poorer in math. It seems as though there is a benefit to having co-ed classes. While there are differences in learning styles between boys and girls, Few educators are formally trained in gender-specific techniques. If educators are not trained in gender-specific techniques, they would be implementing the same teaching strategies regardless of working at a single-sex or a co-ed school. Those in favor of single-sex education want to show it is more beneficial to boys and girls. The teachers should be trained to work with only boys or only girls. This way, the teacher would be able to create a classroom environment that suited the learning needs of a specific gender. However, rather than focus on gender needs, it may be even more beneficial to focus on individual learning needs. Question 3. What are the social development implications of a single-sex environment on students? To start, single-sex schools bring upon intensified gender stereotypes and homophobia. One study showed that much more teasing and labeling was going on in a single-sex school. An article said that single-sex schools and classes are simply an invitation to discriminate. At one point, America wanted to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex in education. People fought long and hard for Title IX to pass. Single-sex schools are going to reverse years of progress, undermine protections against sex discrimination, and promote inequality. Girls' schools can be cliquish. On one of the next few slides, I will read a quote from a graduate who attended an all-girls school. Her quote tells of all the drama an all-girls school can have. Furthermore, school is preparation for life. It leads to happier marriages and smaller percentage of divorces. Boys and girls can learn to respect one another and cooperate as equals when they are given the opportunity to learn and work together. Not only do many jobs employ both sexes, but people run into the opposite sex on a daily basis. It is important to know how to interact with the opposite sex and be confident and comfortable during the interaction. This slide here is an image taken from a website. It was a school in Canada, and they were part of a large study done in Canada where roughly 18,000 high school students were interviewed on different topics regarding single sex and co-ed education. This here, the students were given the quote, "I feel confident expressing my views when there are members of the opposite sex around." As you can see, students who attended a co-ed school, whether independent or public, overall more of them felt confident expressing views with the opposite sex around. They came in at 84% and 83%. On the other hand, students who attended a single-sex school, independent, or a girls-only public school, less of those students felt confident in expressing their views. So from this survey here of 18,000 students, you can see that overall, students who are attending a co-educational school tend to have more confidence with the other sex present. This was another question on the survey. Students were given the quotes, "Most of the boys I know respect girls, and most of the girls I know respect boys." Yet again, you can see the differences between co-ed schools and single-sex schools. Students who attend co-ed schools overall think that people they know are more respectful towards girls or boys. In single-sex schools, we can see that there is less respect for the opposite gender. So not only from the previous slide are we learning that co-ed schools are promoting confidence, they are also helping students develop more respect for the opposite sex. We will now get into some perspectives from the single-sex environment. So Jamie and I collected some quotes from people we work with, people we went to school with, all of this to just see what their different perspectives were with single sex and co ed education. These are from graduates of single sex institutions. I was really able to focus on what my parents sent me there for, my education. The school did a really good job of making girls available to us outside school days and hours. It kind of put all of us boys at a premium. We were never wanted for dates. The second one, there was a lot of drama, and the all girls environment perpetuated it. A lot of small issues got blown out of proportion because boys weren't there to temper us. So this goes back to the line I had that said girls' schools can be cliquish. Firsthand, right here, we were seeing that an all girls school came with a lot of drama, and there was no boys there to help settle the girls down. The last one, I was able to own my education. I became comfortable in my own skin. I carry that comfort with me today in my 30s. I would have gotten lost in the shuffle in a co ed school. Now, here are some views from educators of single sex institutions. Single sex environments are more nurturing. Students lose inhibitions in terms of class participation because they are not afraid of how they will be perceived by someone of the opposite gender. Female learning styles can really be catered to in the classroom. Certain activities and instructional styles become prevalent and students really learn. What it lacks in real-world viability, it makes up for in richness and experience. Now some perspectives from the co-ed environment. Graduates of coeducational institutions. If you only interact with females, then the real world is going to be much different than what you're used to. Not knowing how the opposite sex interprets and presents ideas could be a weakness in teamwork, leadership roles, and companionships. I'm sure someone will say single-sex schools are less of a distraction so you can focus on schoolwork. But you need to get used to the distractions because you will likely be working with the opposite sex daily once you get a job. Now from educators of coeducational institutions. I believe that having a co-ed setting for a classroom is beneficial in many ways. First, it allows students of opposite genders to interact and learn from one another's interests, abilities, and learning styles. A co-ed setting also allows for topics to extend further and in some interesting ways because of the dynamics of a co-ed classroom. As a second grade teacher working in a co-ed school, I see firsthand the many benefits of the interaction between genders when considering both teachers and students. I believe that our school environment should be much like the environment in the real world, in which males and females have the opportunity to choose what they want to do and who they want to be in life. Our students need to learn how to work alongside peers that are both similar and different to themselves, as they will likely need to as future employees. Additionally, co-ed schools decrease the stigma that boys are better at math and science and girls are better at reading and writing. Co-ed schools have the opportunity to create groupings in the classroom in which boys and girls are mixed, allowing them to interact and learn from one another. This is an opportunity that same-sex schools or classrooms do not have. A diverse environment creates well-rounded citizens. I believe that students benefit from learning and working in a co-ed classroom. The type of multiple intelligent learning that can occur in a co-ed classroom is beneficial to all students because it demonstrates a more realistic learning and working environment for their future. It also supports students' social skills, as well as learning to work through their differences as peers. Opportunities for students in a co-ed classroom include challenging one another academically, rather than focus on the same gender and the drama that may occur, as well as promoting gender equality among students. A few additional findings. Simply separating students by gender is not the solution. The best practices must be adopted. It isn't for all students. There is no one size fits all. Students should have the choice to select which model would work best for them. So they should have the choice between single sex or co ed classrooms. And lastly, society can benefit from choice and diversity. So let's offer options. So this ties back in with, the line right above it that gives students the choice as to what they think will be better for them in their learning. We decided to loop back around to the philosophical context. Jamie and I thought that the Reconstructionist thinking closely tied with the views of single sex and coeducational education, or sorry, co-ed education. So, teachers and students should embark on a critical examination of the culture in which they live. They should seek to identify the major areas of controversy, conflict, and inconsistency, and seek to explore and to resolve them. So, this was from chapter 6 of the readings that we were provided. Now, with this quote here, we thought that, in education, there can be conflict, there can be inconsistency and controversy. And no matter what it is within, different districts, a private school, public school, whatever those conflicts and issues are, as educators, we need to try our best to resolve them. So, if it is an issue with gender, then yes, offer single sex schools. Maybe it's not an issue with gender and we need to focus more on those socioeconomic classes and the minorities that are underperforming. So, whatever the issue may be, we need to come up with a solution regardless of it being single sex education or co ed education.